I came here to create another site of my Whirlwill project and found that the people were barely surviving with food and water issues. The oceans have risen, a drought has set in, shrinking rivers, drawing ocean salt water into waterways, into wells and rice fields. Women walk for miles to find potable water to bring back to their families. We started Women at the Well to try to help these villages to build good wells, desalination, and purification by placing bottles of contaminated water for 9 hours in the sun on 10 roofs. Even our small efforts have led to the creation of a few new wells that bring life to the gardens and food to families. Most village women work so hard and now have the opportunity to go to new schools that have sprung up to help eliminate illiteracy. In gratitude that someone came and asked, "What are your problems?" the villagers drew us into friendship, dancing and singing, saying, "This is your home." I began working in villages in 1986, creating environmental stone sculptures and ritual theater as a way to bring peace and understanding between countries. I work in collaboration to address our deepest social and ecological concerns. My hope is to activate the awareness of the interconnectedness of all life. I began a journey that was prompted by a dream to go around the world and live in many cultures, carrying on my work as an artist. I saw myself creating stone carvings in wilderness areas in many different lands and involving the local people in some theater piece or ceremony. I wanted to go back to the origins of art, when sculpture and theater were not a commodity, but were a natural expression of the struggles and solutions of the community. I felt the dream was showing me a way to bring peace and understanding into the world through the arts. I didn't know how to begin until one day I was looking at a world globe and put my finger on California and turned the globe, keeping the same parallel, and I realized at that moment that this was the circle of my dream. When I left to start my pilgrimage, I sold my car and the few possessions I had and began really as a homeless person. Having visited the Seneca Reservation many times in the past, I was invited by an elder to stay and work there. I carved the sculpture Unity that had 4 faces pouring out of the 4 cardinal directions, with a spiral at the top uniting all humanity. We gathered large vines that grew in the forest and made wheels that hung between trees. We had a ceremony performance in the forest. The elder Twyla Nitch told the cynical origins of life. We enacted out the peacemaker's life as a solution. He was a young man who lived 500 years before Christ and brought the warring nations of the eastern United States together in peace. Our Constitution is based on the Iroquois Confederacy. In each country, I looked for our community's answer to 3 universal questions I ask. What is our essence? What is our problem? What is the solution? The answers inspired the sculptures and performances that became a part of the community and created a dialogue through the arts. I lived with Palestinian families and Israeli families, and their children planted a tree of peace in a circle of stone sculptures that we carved together. And the children's answer to the solution was, if we understand each other's cultures and can see through the eyes of the other person, we will have love for them. I took a train to Shanti-Niketan. On this train, I could hear folk singers in the distance. When they came to my compartment, I kept giving them coins so that they would keep singing. They were the Baal minstrels, and they invited me to their village. They found a hut for me to live in. A few days passed, but I couldn't see myself creating a sculpture. They had beautiful village sculptures. Then I realized the children didn't have a schoolhouse, and many of the wandering Baal minstrels didn't have a place to live. I was offered a space to create a community house. I started working, mixing the adobe with my feet. Every day, people would pass on their way to work and stop and say, "Oh, you don't do it that way. You do it this way." Together, we built a place where the village could gather in ceremony. Children could study, and the Baals could practice and teach their music. We arrived at Shoto Teardrum, a valley at 16,000 feet and very sacred to the Tibetan people, where Padmasambhava, their most renowned teacher, and Yeshe Shojal, his consort, had lived and practiced in caves for many years. There is now a cave hermitage with 70 nuns. I found a cave that wasn't being used and started going there every day to meditate, and was given permission to carve a sculpture. I wanted an image that did not represent Buddha or a Christ figure, but was the illumination and openness and connectedness that is in each one of us and is our birthright. I didn't know what the nuns would think because it wasn't a traditional Buddhist image. 2 nuns were walking down the canyon and saw me working. They came over to the cave, and when they saw the image, tears filled their eyes, and they threw themselves down on the ground in their traditional full-length prostration. Afterwards, they invited me to their cave, and for hours shared with me their spiritual practices, which was their most precious possession. I took a train to Kunming in western China, where I had been given one telephone number. I didn't know what I would do in China. I gave a talk at the university, and was told not to bother working publicly because the government would not allow it. After a few days, I received a call from the government requesting an appointment. I worried, did I say too much at the university? Will they ask me to leave the country? But at the meeting, an official said, "We heard about your project for world peace and want to know in which national park you would like to create your sculptures." I chose Cezanne, an ancient Taoist forest park, and there carved 5 Kuan Yin figures in the limestone that represented the minority people of the area. At the performance, many people came, some from the university. The Nashi people came from Lijiang bringing their ancient instruments. It was televised nationally. All this from one telephone number. In Siberia, I chose a site on the banks of Lake Baikal. It holds almost a quarter of the world's fresh water, and now because of pollution from the factories on the lake, hundreds of species have died. Because of the terrible depression the people were in when I arrived, and the hope that arose from the people who were involved in the project, we selected a point where the dark of the forest meets the luminosity of the lake. With the help of the men in this tiny village, Maximiha, I created a wheel of 12 carved stones representing the Buryat culture. And at its center, we placed a standing stone with the form of the Russian Orthodox cross splaying out around it to integrate both cultures of the area. At the ceremony, people expressed their hope for their future, and women's groups were formed to help with the local problems.
Звезды можно достать, только смело сказать, без тебя мне не жить.
The Shinto shrine in Tankua. I carved 12 stones that were to be placed around the Crystal Mountain Temple. We created together a fire ceremony, the priests drumming on the giant Shinto drums and performing an ancient Shinto fire ceremony. After the ceremony, the priests asked me to come into the temple's sacred ground that represented the body of the goddess, and to bury the earth I had gathered from all the world countries as a gesture of peace. That I was asked to do this felt like a blessing from the universe. When I first arrive in a country, I let myself be drawn into nature. In Paguche, a small village outside of Otavalo, I spent time at its sacred waterfall. I hiked up the slope of the nearby volcano and started to develop a relationship with the earth. Then I met Matiko and was invited to live in her Otavalanian family. There I slept, cooked in their kitchen with them, ate with them, heard their family concerns and hopes for the village.
¿De dónde es la señora o señorita?
Señora.
Matiko told me the story of how the two male volcanoes of this valley fought over the female volcano, Kotakachi, by throwing stones at each other. One stone fell in Paguche. It was this boulder that the villagers asked me to carve. I would go and sit by the stone and meditate and draw what I felt was the spirit of the boulder. When I showed it to the elders, they said, "Oh, this is Pachacamac, our pre-Incan deity." Then we talked with the presidents of the barrios, women, young people, and the whole village gave their blessings for me to start carving this stone. Edie Hartshorn, a friend and musician, joined me as I prayed to be guided in my work to release the original spirit of this stone. The women of the village felt that the stone was buried and that we needed to uncover the stone, to uncover their original heritage. So we started digging. Traditionally, the work of men and women are done separately, but on this project they all worked side by side. Everyone was laughing. As we worked, we ran into a boulder that we had to move, and we all had our opinions on how to move it. No one in the village had carved before, so I taught 4 men how to carve, following my instructions for the image. The stone was a lava stone and the hardest stone I have ever worked on. The spirit that lives in the stone is called Chuzalunga. The villagers started calling us the lovers of Chuzalunga. Just working together physically, you feel such a close bond. We are brothers and sisters for the rest of our lives. More and more ideas would come, things that they had just held inside. But it seems that this project allowed them to start working on things that they felt they really wanted. One man wrote his poem in Quechua, and the translation is, "If you come to this stone and listen with your heart, you will receive wisdom, and if you touch this water, you will be healed." As we were working, a spring gushed out of the stone. We created a moon-shaped basin to hold the water. Now it is a place for people to come to hold marriages or baptisms. Not only did we carve the stone together, but we developed a cultural amphitheater and began a chosica, a traditional house for a school. And this is the completed sculpture called Achili Pachacamac. Achili means deity, and this is their pre-Incan deity. Pachacamac is the integration of the male and female, represented by the sun and moon. And they felt that this is what is needed in the world to bring harmony back on our planet. The conch shell is important in their culture. It represents the beginning sound of creation. In traditional times, they would use the conch shell to draw people together. And now they felt this sculpture was drawing all indigenous people together, as well as the people of the planet, into one family. We held the final ceremony for the completion of the sculpture at Inti Raymi, an ancient sun ceremony at the harvest time. And people came from all over the surrounding villages and offered cooked food to the spirit of the stone, then gave it to the people who had gathered.
Yo he estado muy contenta siempre de ser indígena, pero cuando se hizo Achille y Pachacama, me dio más alegría de ser indígena, porque tenemos, me enseñó a valorar mucho lo que tenemos. Me hizo valorar, me hizo crecer como mujer, como indígena, me hizo valorar mi cultura. En ese sentido me ha ayudado mucho.
Muy contenta, yo estaba muy feliz con este proyecto, era muy lindo. Y eso es un recuerdo muy grande para nosotros en la comunidad. Es muy importante esa piedra y siempre yo me voy.
I feel that it is important to preserve and support these cultures because there are few left in this world that still have community and are connected with the earth. Many of our ecological problems, maybe all of them, come from the consciousness of separation that has developed in the West, where we use the earth and use nature for our very quick gain. The indigenous people are still in tune with the cycles of life, how to live using the elements of the earth without destroying the environment.
La selva, la naturaleza, es nuestra madre, es nuestra vida.
Cerca de unas cascadas estamos haciendo escultura de dos mujeres shuar unidas a través de una anaconda, que implica decir también el poder de la mujer shuar está en la selva para proteger a la laguna, a los peces y a toda la riqueza de los ríos, simbolizado en Chunki, nuestra diosa de las aguas.
El mundo actual, la tecnología moderna se olvida de la madre naturaleza, pues las grandes industrias, las grandes fábricas, a la vez van dañando lo que es la naturaleza. Si algún día se da el fin del mundo, no es que Dios nos envía un castigo, sino es que nosotros mismos, nosotros las personas de todo el mundo, estamos destruyendo al mundo.
What I like to do when I go to a place is really draw out the visions and the deepest dreams of the people in the area. I ask 3 questions. What is your essence? Who are you in the deepest part of yourself? And the second question is, what is the problem? Why are we not living that deepest part? And the third question, what is the solution? What can unfold that essence?
Hace un año tuvimos la idea de crear una escuela en donde nosotros íbamos a rescatar nuestras costumbres, nuestra cultura, nuestra identidad. Muy importante porque nuestros niños ahora no hablan el idioma, se va perdiendo. En el futuro es posible que se pierda el idioma.
Just to go and be in a new community, have tea with someone. These very, very simple acts is what the world wheel is made of. I feel great hope for our planet. May we meditate on the luminous source of our being. Everywhere I traveled with all the different people I met, we rediscovered that at source we're all the same. We are fruits of the tree of life. Can you tell me, friend, what difference is there, Hindu or Muslim, Israeli or Palestinian, man or woman? Blood is red. Each heart beats the rhythm of shared life. The work of the sculptures and performances continue, as well as the development of wisdom centers, to preserve the indigenous cultures and create a crucible for the knowledge that is necessary for the future of our planet.